Robinson Okenye, and Marisha Witi is on sign language. Now, ODM leader Raila Odinga has urged the government to compensate victims and families affected by last year's Gen Z-led anti-government protests, as well as previous demonstrations that turned deadly. Speaking at the 62nd Madaraka Day celebrations in Homa Bay, Odinga acknowledged recent gestures of remorse from the government, including public apologies by President William Ruto. However, the former Prime Minister insists that apologies are not enough, calling for tangible action to support families still struggling with the pain and loss from what he termed a brutal crackdown on demonstrators. As Jeff Kirui reports, President Ruto, who presided over the national celebrations in Homa Bay, steered clear of the issue, raising further questions about the sincerity of his recent apology, especially as reports of arbitrary arrests and targeting of dissenting voices continue.
To our children, if there is any misstep, we apologize.
President William Ruto's apology to Gen Z during last week's national prayer breakfast has sparked a wave of skepticism, with many questioning the sincerity behind his words. The pressure is now mounting on the president to go beyond rhetorics and take concrete action. And his broad-based government partner Raila Odinga openly challenged the head of state to facilitate justice and closure for families affected by past protests, specifically the 2022 post-election demos that were led by Odinga himself and the 2024 Gen Z-led protests against the finance bill that culminated in the storming of parliament.
There's the issue of people who are injured, some people who died during that time. I want today to say that we should do compensation to families of those who died and those who are injured, so that we can have a closure to this chapter of our national history.
However, despite these calls, President Ruto sidestepped the matter entirely, sticking to his scripted remarks.
One waonge wasiwasi, one waonge watch. One wachodho mana teach. Kwa Mheshimiwa Kindiki na Mheshimiwa Raila pengine hamuelewi hiyo lugha, inamaanisha hatuna wasiwasi, hatuna midomo mingi, tunachapa kazi.
The apologies of President William Ruto and the pronouncement of his political partner Raila Odinga, however, raises doubt on the sincerity of their intentions. His silence on the matter has been amplified by fresh government crackdowns, most notably the arrest of Rose Njeri, a digital marketer who developed a website for Kenyans to submit objections to the Finance Bill 2025. The arrest coming just days after the apology has resurrected fears of arbitrary detentions and abductions, reminiscent of last year's protest, raising serious doubts about the government's commitment to accountability and reform.
Sasa unaomba msamaha, si kwanza uite wazazi uongee na hawa, uombe hawa msamaha, uwaite pale Ikulu uongee na hawa ndio watakusamea.
With the anniversary of the June 25th, 2024 parliament invasion looming, families of Gen Z protesters who were killed, abducted or disappeared continue to wait for justice. For now, President Ruto faces growing pressure to match his words with action and to address the pain of those whose loved ones were brutalized, abducted or killed during last year's nationwide protests. According to Amnesty International Kenya, at least 65 people were killed, 89 forcibly disappeared, and thousands arrested during the 2024 protests against the finance bill. For President Ruto, the challenge now is clear: walk the talk or risk losing the trust of a generation that demanded change. Jeff Kirui, KTN.
Now, the arrest of web developer